Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Sorry it's been so long since I've uploaded. Life kind of happened and I just kind of let the channel slip away from me, but I really want to get back into uploading since working on this was something I found really enjoyable. Now, I will update everyone on the Draft League content. That tournament has been over for a few months now, but I still want to showcase my battles for that on my channel since that was my original project with this, and I just think they're fun to watch. However, I did put out a poll for my most active viewers, which is the people in the Draft League community, asking what they would like to see from me if I return to my channel, and they said they would like to see primarily VGC content for Scarlet and Violet, the new Pokemon games that have come out, and so that's primarily what I'm going to be focusing on. I will, however, update you guys on my Draft League content eventually, so be watching for those videos because my next two are some really exciting battles. But for now, I'm going to be getting into a series I hope to continue, VGC Best of Threes with people I know who also play Pokemon. This one is up against TreeDolphinGaming, who I know from the Pokemon Draft League tournament that I entered. Most of these people who I battle will be people I know from that. And he is running a really unique team that features Palafin, our new dolphin Pokemon, fitting with the name, with Pelipper for support. I know Tree's team it really relies on getting Palafin in the rain and using Choice Band, Jet Punch in the rain, especially with Terra Water, to just murder things with priority. It's really deadly. I've fought an iteration of this team before this set, and Tree just mopped the floor with me. It wasn't even close. He rounds out the team with Kingambit, Garganacl, Amoonguss, and Gallade. I feel like having three really slow members is good because Indeedee can kind of screw Palafin over because it sets up the Psychic Terrain, which blocks priority moves, which Palafin really likes to use. So Kingambit, Garganacl, and Amoonguss can all work in Trick Room, which Indeedee usually helps to try and set, and Kingambit in particular can just absolutely murder Indeedee. Then there's also Gallade, whose purpose I did not really realize until Game 2, so I'll kind of keep what it does secret until then. Now I'm running a team I'd since dropped, which features Gholdengo, Grimmsnarl, Meowscarada, Sylveon, Maushold, and Hydreigon. The goal of this team is to get speed control up with Hydreigon, but you really just have a lot of really powerful attackers, and you also have a little bit of bulk control with Grimmsnarl. The team had been revised a lot. It started with some different members, but I changed a lot of it, and I kind of just revised it to death, so that's why I ended up dropping it. But it was the team I took into this set, and so let's just start getting into the battles. I'm sorry I did not record live commentary. I believe it was pretty late when we had this battle, so I didn't want to wake anybody up. So I lead with Meowscarada and Maushold. I know Meowscarada is really good because it can pressure knockouts into Palafin. It can do decently well into Garganacl and Gallade. Well, Gallade if it can have something to redirect the fighting moves away. But Meowscarada is also vulnerable to, like I said, Gallade's fighting moves and Hurricane from Pelipper. So I decided to lead Maushold with it to provide Follow Me support, so that way I could pressure Flower Trick into Pokemon like Palafin and Garganacl without having to worry about getting just OHKO'd by like Pelipper Hurricane or Gallade Sacred Sword, because I believe this was Choice Band Meowscarada, so it would just get one shot and not be able to use the Focus Sash to live one of those attacks. Tree here leads two of his favorite Pokemon, Kingambit and Palafin, probably just to test the waters with Palafin, get it to switch in and out to activate its Zero to Hero ability to become much stronger, with Kingambit just to cover any weaknesses that the Palafin might have, probably pressure Sylveon and Gholdengo on my side. So I go for Follow Me and a Choice Banded Play Rough into Kingambit to try and do some damage into it. Fortunately, Kingambit goes for Sucker Punch, expecting probably for me to not follow me. And surprisingly, Palafin stays in and knocks out Mosshold, and I do very little damage into Kingambit. Now, I didn't really expect Palafin to stay in here. I expected to hard switch into something like Amoonguss to tank a flower trick, but I guess Tree figured I wouldn't risk that, and so just kept the Palafin in for a surprise factor. Definitely a risky play on his end, but it paid off. And Mosshold goes down, and Kingambit doesn't do a lot. I mean, Meowscarada doesn't do a lot into Kingambit, but I bring out Sylveon. Now, my Sylveon is Terra Fire, so I can Terrastalize it to resist Steel-type attacks from Kingambit, but I'm not going to risk it since Tree's team has a lot of things that counter Fire types, namely Palafin, Pelipper, and Garganacl. And he's guaranteed, I just don't want to risk it, so I'm expecting a hard switch out for Palafin since its defenses are lowered even more, and Tree really relies on Palafin to do lots of damage. So I click Play Rough again and Hyper Voice just to try and take a KO onto Kingambit because it causes a lot of trouble for me. It Terrastalizes into the Fairy type, probably expecting me to Terra Fire. But I just stay and go for Hyper Voice, pick up the KO on Kingambit, and do a lot of damage into Pelipper and get a Throat Spray activation, which is really great for me. This is looking up. Tree sends in Amoonguss, and I'm kind of worried because Amoonguss can Spore my Sylveon, putting me to sleep, and Meowscarada can't do a lot of damage to Amoonguss to stop that because, well, it resists Amoonguss's Grass Poison, meaning it resists Play Rough, which I'm banded into. I could have stayed in to pick up the KO on Pelipper and protected, but instead I chose to switch into Golden Go for the extra damage and to reset my Meowscarada, who was locked into Play Rough. That way I could go for stuff like Flower Trick and be able to work around Amoonguss Redirection because I have the Protein ability. So switching in to reset my type would be really helpful, so that way I could not have to worry about getting spored by Amoonguss or have to get my attacks redirected by Rage Powder because Meowscarada's Grass typing makes it immune to both those things. And I then protect Sylveon, so that way it can't be spored. Golden Go's good as gold ability keeps it from being spored. But Tree just goes for the double attack into Golden Go, and it resists both hits, letting it live on fairly comfortable HP. Now this turn I make a critical mistake, and this is why it's just so important in VGC to know as much information as possible. Know what moves your opponent's Pokemon can go for, and always make a play that would work out no matter what they do. Here, I forgot Pelipper learns Wide Guard. And as you might know, Golden Go is really popular for its spread move, Make It Rain. Sylveon really popular for its spread move, Hyper Voice. Wide Guard stops spread moves, and I may or may not have clicked both of my spread moves into Wide Guard. And the game just was looking really bad after this turn because Sylveon gets put to sleep, which I was desperately trying to avoid. And I'm that was literally just a turn that was completely useless for me. All that happened was my Sylveon got put to sleep. I did absolutely no damage. So, here I do a bit of metagaming. I am upset that I forgot about Wide Guard like I did in my original best of 3 with Tree. And he makes a snide comment saying, well, I hope you weren't choiced, so you weren't forced to use Make It Rain into my Wide Guard Pokemon. I make a dangerous read and say, now that you've said that, you're expecting me to switch out my Golden Go or you're expecting me to just switch out something because I might be choiced and not go for Make It Rain again. So, as I predicted, Tree actually does not click Wide Guard again, but instead switches in Palafin. And so I dangerously switch in Meowscarada on the Sylveon slot. and click Make It Rain, which was a really good call, but my mistake I feel like was not sacking Sylveon. Because I took this Clear Smog with Amoonguss, I'm now in range for a KO from Palafin Jet Punch, which is really dangerous. If I had sacked Sylveon, it might have been able to take an attack or two before going down, and then I could have safely switched in Meowscarada in order to take the KO on Palafin. But that's not what I did, and so Palafin takes me out. Make It Rain with Gholdengo doesn't take out either Pokemon. I'm now forced to stay in with half my special attack, and Palafin just gets its HP restored with Pollen Puff, and the game's basically over for me. Tree wisely switches Pelipper back in to set up the rain. Gholdengo goes down to a Jet Punch, and I'm just forced to sleep out. So I feel like I made some really good calls this game, but it was ultimately forgetting about Wide Guard that cost me the game. And again, if I had Sucker Punched into Palafin, because it could just Jet Punch my Meowscarada this turn, I could have gotten some more damage onto it. And then this Make It Rain might have actually KO'd if I had done 31% or more of its HP. No guarantees though, and again, forgetting about Wide Guard cost me this game. Now in game 2, I decided to lead Gholdengo and Hydreigon, hoping to get a Tailwind off, and Hydreigon's Terra Fire on my team to counter Steel types, which a lot of things like to Terra into in this meta. And so I just figure I can get off Tailwind, Thunderbolt, because that's a move I have on my Gholdengo, Palafin or Pelipper if they show up. If not, I can just do really good damage into everything. And so here, I make another mistake of lack of information. I had never fought Tree's Gallade, and so I don't really know what it does. However, I check its speed, 145, it's not outspeeding me, it's not a threat, and either way, I can Terra Fire to avoid getting knocked out by it. Because that way it gets rid of my fighting weakness on Hydreigon. And then I can go for Heat Wave and Make It Rain, pick up the double knockout. What I don't expect is Scarf Terra Fire Gallade with Sacred Sword. And again, I forget Gallade gets a new move this gen a new ability this gen called Sharpness that boosts the power of its slicing based moves, which its primary fighting type attack Sacred Sword is. So if we come to a damage calculator, we can see what difference this makes. Well, actually first let's let the turn play out. As you can see, Sharpness, Terra Fighting is enough to pick up the knockout on my Hydreigon, which I was not expecting at all. This means I do not get Heat Wave off into either Pokemon, meaning they both live a Make It Rain from Gholdengo. I was expecting a Heat Wave on both of these Pokemon, which might have picked up the knockout on both of them. At the very least, it would have knocked out Gallade. And since King Gambit survives, it just retaliates and kills my Gholdengo. So again, I made a horrible mistake, which forgot about some new changes this gen, such as the addition of the ability Sharpness. So, Choice Scarf. Let's see. This was probably the set I ran, no bulk. As you can see here, if Gallade had any other ability, a Terra Fighting Sacred Sword would have not killed my Hydreigon, which meant the play I made was actually really safe if we were playing in Gen 8 with Terastallization. However, since the Sharpness ability was added in Gen 9 to Gallade, there's actually a very good chance that a Terra Fighting Sharpness is in fact going to kill my Hydreigon, which as you can see did happen. So again, VGC is a game of lots of information that you have to be concerned about, and forgetting about information is really, really costly in battle. So for those of you just getting into VGC, I definitely recommend looking at the Pokemon popular, just trying to memorize what every Pokemon can do, what abilities do, what moves do, because Pokemon's an information game, and as you can see, forgetting this information really, really hurts. And so here I make the informed decision that Gallade is Choice Scarf, because it outsped my Hydreigon. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to do that. So I realize I absolutely have to Sucker Punch it to knock it out, which I go for. And then I use Population Bomb on Kingambit to just try and do as much damage as possible. And hold on, that takes it from 74% to... So I did about 50% of Kingambit's health. So here I make a mistake. I'm choiced into Sucker Punch, which means if Amoonguss goes for Rage Powder, Sucker Punch is going to do nothing because it'll be redirected into Amoonguss. Sucker Punch only works if your opponent used an attacking move, and Amoonguss went for Rage Powder, which isn't an attacking move. So what I should have done here is tried to Population Bomb the Kingambit to knock it out. If it gets redirected into Amoonguss, I get damage on that slot, which is fine. And then Sucker Punch something because, well, that's what I'm locked into. The Follow Me probably wasn't important because, yeah, I just take damage on my Mons and nothing happens. It's a useless turn. Fortunately, on this turn, I pick up on that play and go for it, but by this point, it's too late. And Tree successfully bests me in a best of 3. You did really well, Tree. Good job. You played great. But unfortunately, I made some critical mistakes, and you just played well, and I lost. So, GG's, and I will see you guys next time in the next VGC Best of 3, where hopefully I don't get rained on like I did this time.